These 3 predictions for 2023 are insane, I'll admit, but I do have my reasons. I have the statistics, I have the evidence to back what I'm gonna say. And I wanna break all of that down for you right here. And honestly, if you thought 2022 was unpredictable, then you're gonna wanna watch this video until the very end. Because today I'll be covering my predictions for AI, real estate, and crypto going into 2023. So let's waste no time and get right into it. By the way, if you don't know me, my name is Vic, and I make content around your financial independence. If that sounds cool, hit subscribe. Number 3, AI will push us into a recession. Artificial intelligence has started to go viral, and it's really cool to see because I've actually been studying machine learning at a very basic level for the past few years. I've played with tools from Google, Amazon, and IBM, but I've never seen anything close to what we've seen in the last couple months. First off, let's start with ChatGPT. This is a free-to-use tool made by OpenAI, and it is a language processing model. So you can talk to it and it talks to you like it's a human. But what's so incredible about it is it will generate scripts, it will write you essays for your projects. You can even just drop a massive block of text like an article right into it and tell it to summarize it for you, and it will, which I actually do all the time. Recently, I got it to look over a legal contract that I had to write up, and it gave me 7 suggestions to make it more favorable for me. Just incredible. The thing about machine learning is that the more users provide feedback and use the actual tool, the more it's able to learn and get better at what it does. The current model of ChatGPT is number 3, and rumors of number 4 are actually kind of scary. With ChatGPT having 175 billion parameters, ChatGPT 4 is expected to have over 1 trillion. And with this software becoming pretty much the fastest software to ever hit 1 million users, even faster than Facebook or Netflix, I'm gonna make the assumption that ChatGPT 4 is just gonna completely blow us away. But what does this have to do with a recession? Well, we can already see that ChatGPT is taking jobs away from copywriters, and other AI tools are taking jobs away from lawyers. In fact, a study was done by a company called LawGeeks. It wanted to test its legal AI versus actual lawyers. So LawGeeks asked a bunch of legal professors to find 30 very high quality lawyers, and they put those 30 lawyers versus this one AI tool to examine a non-disclosure agreement. This task took the lawyers on average 92 minutes with an 85% success rate. On the other hand, this task took the AI 26 seconds with a success rate of 94%, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Now, don't get me wrong. In its current state, AI can be a tool used by professionals to just do their job better. But as more tech companies start to leverage AI to build do-it-yourself tools like ChatGPT or like LawGeeks, we're gonna see a lot of jobs starting to get replaced, especially when it comes to freelancers or small businesses. And when jobs get replaced by free tools or monthly subscription tools, that is less money circulating in the economy, which in my opinion will push us closer to this recession that everyone's talking about. Number 2, real estate prices will crash even more. Okay, so between December 2019 and June 2022, the average price of a home in America increased by 45%. That's insane. Now, this was obviously caused by very low interest rates and supply chain issues for housing materials like lumber, which also exploded in value. Inflation in general from these past few years has caused central banks around the world to raise interest rates. This is no secret. And in return, inflation has shown a bit of a slowdown. And we're starting to see it in the housing market already. In 2022, we saw a 15% decrease in the value of homes listed on MLS, which is Canada's main listing website for real estate. The problem is that interest rates have risen so fast, actually the fastest they've ever risen in Canada. And inflation might have started to slow down, but I really don't think that it's done, because history tells us a different story. You can look at this chart from 1970 going into the 80s when we had our massive run on interest rates. Inflation came up and down, but then it spiked up again. And the story right now is honestly much worse. We printed so much money in the past few years. The M1 money supply chart from the Federal Reserve itself shows us that 80% of money in the system was printed in the last few years alone. And they're not even slowing down. I mean, Biden's administration is pushing a $1.7 trillion spending bill. That is money printed from thin air that the taxpayers pay back through taxes and inflation. And if we look at the peak interest rates of the mid-80s, we're looking at up to almost 20% interest. This is why I don't think inflation is done, and interest rates will keep going up as well. The really bad thing here is that when interest rates rise, the mortgage of, let's say, a $500,000 house just becomes completely unaffordable for pretty much anyone in the middle class. Let's use the example of a $500,000 home, which I mean, is pretty impossible to even find in Canada right now. So let's plug in an interest rate at 3%, which is the interest rate that I locked in 2021 for my mortgage on my home. Now let's increase that interest rate to what we're at right now. Pretty intimidating jump already. Now let's be hypothetical that we see the rates that we've seen in 1985 of nearly 20%. This is what the monthly mortgage cost of a $500,000 home would be at those rates. Yeah, that's just a little expensive. Now, I'm not saying we're gonna see 20% interest. I just want to illustrate the difference in mortgage rates once interest rates keep on rising, which honestly, I think they're going to. And when this happens, the only way to afford the homes is by bringing their value down, causing downward pressure on prices, causing a market crash. Now, I feel like that's going to happen this year, but it could happen next year. And number one, my final prediction here is that crypto will enter an ice age. 2021 was euphoric for crypto investors. We made massive gains. We went into 2022 feeling invincible. However, shortly after the year started, things started to go wrong. First, the Fed started raising rates like we just covered, which not only affected real estate, but it affected the stock market and the crypto markets because leverage traders couldn't get money so cheap. So prices started to slide. Then the first black swan event happened. Terra Luna's ecosystem completely collapsed. This took Bitcoin down 30% pretty much overnight. It also raised major alarms for government regulators, since Luna's prize project was UST, an algorithmic stablecoin. But months passed and the smoke cleared, and we were starting to feel a little bit better about the markets. Until, of course, in November, the greatest scam pretty much of all time was revealed, and FTX collapsed as well. Sam Bankman-Fried was exposed to be pretty much the kingpin of this massive Ponzi scheme, and what makes him so important is that he was really going to Washington often and trying to work with these regulators to create crypto regulations that did favor FTX, but also were more beneficial than what some of these regulators wanted to put in place. We still don't really know if SBF was planted by some elite organization or if he was just genuinely an evil scammer that stole billions of dollars from his customers. But one thing we do know for sure is that the FTX situation is really bad for regulation. I mean, these two black swan events alone, plus all the other scams that happened in 2022, wiped out over $1 trillion in the crypto markets alone. And US regulators are swarming now. We're talking about Gary Gensler of the SEC, Senator Elizabeth Warren trying to pass a bill that controls crypto exchanges just like the banks. And it's very clear that the US government either wants to see crypto completely extinct or in full control of the government's jurisdiction. Now, if crypto as an industry gets trapped by US regulators, we can pretty much say goodbye to most of the institutional money that was going to come into our space, at least for the time being. Now, I think the saving grace for Bitcoin specifically is the Bitcoin halving that is scheduled to happen in 2024. This is when the daily supply of Bitcoin will be cut in half, unless Bitcoin will be mined. And pretty much every time this happens, which is every 4 years, we see a new all-time high just months after. The last time this happened was in 2020. So coming into the next halving, I'm pretty confident that the same thing will happen again. But that's not until 2024. I really feel like for 2023, we're not going to see a lot of activity, and this is just going to be a minefield for US regulators to attack crypto one after another, after another, after another. But this is just a prediction. I appreciate you watching. My name is Vic Laranja. If you enjoyed this video, smash the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.